everybody. Welcome. Hi. Welcome. It's 3 o'clock Central Time. How's everybody doing? Good to see you all. I am giving us some time to get started here. I've got my notes pulled up. I've got some music going for us. Won't be on very long or much longer. All right. I have music on StreamYard. This is so cool. Welcome. I hope everybody's fantastic. Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. here in Austin. I'm so happy to serve you today. If you are watching live, make sure you post in the comments, share with me an insight, share with me a question. Would love to hear from you. Well, we'll get started here in just a moment. This is an opportunity for us to every week take a moment, a break. Maybe you're taking a break with me. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to close your office door. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to stop emailing folks, to just, put your phone down, maybe, and watch us live. So these trainings are intentional. We pick topics that are important to you, to us leaders in the moment. Sometimes these topics are provocative, sometimes these topics are necessary because they're happening in the moment. Our workforce is being impacted by certain things right now. So they're timely. These trainings are timely. So if you follow me across all the socials, you're going to want to stay close because every week these live trainings come on. They're live trainings, live sessions, whatever you want to call them. But we are going to be here to provide you with an important topic, but more importantly, strategies so that you can simplify your leadership because your job is to amplify your impact. My job is to simplify leadership for you so that you can go amplify your impact in your communities, in your organizations, in your families even. That's your job, is to amplify your impact as a leader, and my job is to help you simplify it. So welcome to our session today. Today's session is titled How Reactive Leadership is Holding You Back. Now, if you are inspired during our time together, you're going to want to post your comments or even your insights. I'd love to hear from you right away. So, the reason why this topic is so important right now is because of the rise in incivility in our workplaces. The Society of Human Resource Management came out with a study recently that there has been an increase in uncivil behaviors. So that got me thinking, well, why are we showing up misbehaving, mistreating, disrespecting, undermining our peers or our direct reports? What's happening in the world? Well, a lot's happening in the world right now. And so I felt it necessary that we talk about the differences between reactive leadership and proactive leadership. Now, right now, we're living in a time where we have to react fast. There's crisis at every corner. I mean, don't you feel like sometimes you're always putting out fires? You're reacting to one crisis after another? It's exhausting. So, what if I told you that there's a better way to do this, a better way to lead with more control, with more intention, right? More intention, less burnout, more intention, less disgruntled employees, more intention, and more committed, engaged employees. What if I told you there's a way for us to do that? There is a way for us to do that. So we're going to talk about that on our time together today. So for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Dr. Denise Simpson. I'm so happy to serve you today and every day, every week here across all of the social feeds. I am a leadership trainer. I'm an executive and leadership coach. I'm also the founder of Masters of Leadership Institute, where our primary focus is to help you master the mindset, the skills, and the strategies so that you can go amplify your impact. And we just opened a brand new program called Amplify Leadership. So excited about this brand new. We only have a handful of people in there right now. It is brand new. So excited. The whole point of Amplify Leadership is to streamline and simplify leadership for you. That's what we get to do at Amplify Leadership, and we're going to talk more about that towards our the end of our time together. So, why is this topic important? Just like I mentioned, it's timely. Right now, we need to talk about what's happening in our organizations. I'm not talking about what's happening on social media. I'm not talking about what's happening in your families. I'm not talking about what's happening in your communities. I want to talk about the workplace. And this is where the leader and follower dyad is important. This is where we see reactive leadership versus proactive leadership explicitly and implicitly. We want to talk about what those two types of approaches are to your leadership and which one's the best. How should you handle a crisis situation? What are the best ways to do that? And so as you're coming in, please make sure you say hello in the comments. We are getting started here right now. So if you're just jumping on, say hi, and then let's get to it. Here's why this is important. So if we can shift from being a reactive leader to a proactive leader, then we have more control over our team's performance, over the culture that we create, the culture of trust that we want and intentionally want to create. And we get to avoid burnout as leaders. Reactive leadership. We're going to spend some time on what's happening in the brain when we look at a reactive leader versus a proactive leader. And then we're going to talk about the balance of the two, and which one of these approaches is the best for you. Because what I don't like to do is tell you what to do. I'm not saying this is right, this is wrong. Listen, you are human. We are reactive in moments that are heated. We are reactive in moments that trigger us in the workplace. And there are times where we need to just take a step back and assess what happened, evaluate what happened, and then use that information as data, right? We don't want to judge ourselves, shame ourselves for the way we reacted. And so I'm not going to say that's wrong. Don't be a reactive leader. What I'm trying to say is that's human. It's normal to be a reactive leader. But what if I told you there's a better way to do this? And maybe you should consider the better way to do it. That's all we get to do as trainers. We're not telling you what is right or what is wrong. There's enough people out there telling you what is right and what is wrong. But what I'm going to tell you is you decide what's best for you by taking in information, being informed so that you can make a decision on how you want to lead. That's how we run things in the Institute. And we're going to do that every single week. And it won't be any different today. So it's important that we take a look at reactive versus proactive leadership. And I'm going to share with you the keys. There's three keys. There's always three keys with me. And those three keys happen to be three variables, the three variables that you must master. And we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about the skills that you need and the strategy. So why don't we get into that right away? And again, if you're watching this, even on a replay, make sure you comment below. So as I mentioned, those three variables, mindset, skills, and strategy. These are the three variables that impact your leadership. We can measure them. They are quantifiable. I have an assessment that measures our clients' impact. And we look at those three variables. And that's what we're going to do today as we're looking at this through the lens of reactive versus proactive leadership. It's always those three variables. And it's from the 5x5x3 formula that I created that is inside the Institute. So, and by the way, some of you have DM'd me asking, do you have transcripts for this? Go to YouTube. You can download transcripts of every single one of my training videos. Every single one of these videos, you can download those transcripts. Okay. So I don't have, them downloaded on my website, but if you want to take notes, because some of you have asked for a way to do a worksheet around what we teach or do an exercise around what we're showing you every single week. We don't have handouts for you. We don't have a PDF for you, but what you can do is go and download the transcript so that you can highlight, take notes, and then use that information in real time, in real life, in your leadership practice. That's what we want to do. So these three variables are so important as we look at them through the lens of a reactive leader versus a proactive leader. So let's start with mindset. The mindset of a reactive leader. Okay, so many of us, including ourselves as leaders, we have reacted in the moment. It could have been a heated moment. It could have been in the boardroom. It could have been one on one with your direct report. It could have been in a community setting or a community forum. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get reactive around my family sometimes when there's certain discussions that pop up. And by the way, those of you in the United States, of course, this impacts globally, but we are in an election year. So there are interesting things happening, discussions that are happening, arguments that are happening, division that's happening because of our beliefs. And so we then go into the workplace and then we see signs of incivility in the workplace, which is why it's on the rise, which is why you must look up that study that or survey that the Society of Human Resource Management just conducted. They showed the rise of incivility in the workplace. What does that even look like? Well, it could be explicit, like an argument right in front of your peers, right in front of your direct reports. It could be someone cutting you off, interrupting you, disrupting you. It's a disruptive behavior that catches you off guard. It looks like disrespect. It looks like being undermined. It could be in explicit behaviors or implicit behaviors. And so when the Society of Human Resource Management said, we got to do a survey on this, people are unhinged out here. What is happening? It's because of the reactive nature that we express ourselves in our personal lives. We bring it into the workplace sometimes, not always. Some of us do not have that clear division between our personal beliefs and what we believe at work, because you take your brain and your heart everywhere you go. So expect for those behaviors to seep out in the workplace. That's unconscious behaviors. And so when this survey came out, I said, well, ding, 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 let's talk about this because this is really timely and this is really important. So the reactive leader is in flight or fight mode. By the way, there's 4 reactions. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is being a deer, a baby deer, to be specific. It is pleasing. It is, yes, whatever you say, I'm not even going to argue. I'm not even going to counter that. Yes, what you say. So the reactive leader is always in fight or flight. They respond to problems as they arise, and rarely do they have a space to focus on strategy and long-term goals because it's in the moment. It is heated. They are emotionally triggered. There's a trigger that happens, either a word from somebody else, a look from somebody else, disruption from somebody. It's a behavior, it's an action, or even in your mind, right? Because we tell ourselves some interesting stories in the heat of the moment. And then we react in a certain way. So think about, for you, leader, at your patterns. For me, it's fight. There are moments where I freeze because it's like the record player got scratched because of somebody's behavior. And I'm just like, wait, what? What just happened? Hold on. I'm frozen. Let my brain catch up because I need to process what that person just said to me. So I freeze. And then when I come to, when I evaluate what is happening, and then I remember the setting that I'm in, a professional setting, then I have to remember, okay, is this worth fighting for? Or is there something else happening in my nervous system that needs attention? Is this worth discussing, arguing over? Maybe not. Maybe yes. Do I want to flee the scene? Do I just want to like fly out of there and go, okay, well, whatever, sure, gotta go, gotta go. What are your patterns? Because I know my patterns is to initially freeze in the moment, and then I come fighting. Now, I'm not combative. Never, never, especially in a professional workplace setting. That's the whole point of that incivility survey that the Society of Human Resource Management just did. They're like, why is everybody so uncivil with each other? What is happening? People are explicit in their disrespect for each other. What is happening to their brains? What is going on in this climate right now? So I'm not combative, but I will fight for, if it's my team, if it's the quality of work, when it comes to my team, when it comes to the mental well-being of my team, when it comes to the unity, even the trust of my team, I will fight for them. I remove myself and then I look at the implications of whatever this person is telling me. And then I have to either defend with facts, with evidence, but I'm never combative. That's what I mean by fight. I'm not on the streets fighting with anyone else. I'm just defending what I think should happen, what I think someone else should consider. So now you check in on yourself. What are your patterns when you are in a reactive mode? So here's what's interesting. The reactive leader doesn't have space to focus, mental space to focus, because they are narrowing in on what is happening in front of them. So forget this peripheral vision that a leader is supposed to have, a strategic peripheral vision looking forward and outward, forward. No, what's happening in the brain, and I'll tell you exactly in just a moment. This leader, the reactive leader, is just myopic in what is in front of them. And because of the reaction to whatever situation they're in, they're either fighting, they're either fleeing, they're fawning, right? Or they're freezing. So think about a moment in your leadership practice when you reacted interestingly. I say interestingly because it's not negative or positive. It's just something interesting happened to you. Maybe somebody, maybe a peer, maybe someone from across the way, across the division, said something to you about you and your team that you didn't feel was fair or you thought was negative or false. And then how did you react in that moment? Did you put up your fist? Were you ready to fight? Were you combative? Or were you fleeing the room? You're like, "I gotta go. I gotta go." I don't listen, I know leaders who will flee the room. They will get the hell out of that room as fast as you can as you can, ask them, "Do you agree?" They're like, "Never mind, gotta go," and they're gone. Or are you fawning? Remember the baby deer? Some of us fawn in a situation when we are activated in that way, where we just agree because we don't want to argue, because we don't want to, make anyone else uncomfortable. So we fawn our way through leadership. It's called people pleasing. Or do you freeze? So I'm asking you to think back on these moments because it's important that you step into those moments again, because this is how we're going to learn. Right? I can, talk is cheap. I can tell you what to do. I can tell you what's best, but it's not until you experience these circumstances then you can finally realize how you react in these moments. And I know you have reacted in interesting ways, because if you're a leader, trust me, you have had some interesting circumstances, I'm sure. So this is where we look back at those moments. And because I know my patterns, because I initially freeze because of how jolting that is to my nervous system. I go, wait, what? Did that person just say that about me and my team? Hold on. And so I need to take a moment to think. So I freeze and then I am ready to fight it out. And I don't mean combatively. We're not condoning any physical violence. What I mean by fight for my team is I am protecting my team. I am defending what's best for my team, because no one knows my team better than me. That should be your answer. Nobody knows my team better than me. So even if you're a vice president, even if you're in the C-suite, you're going to tell me, a director, what's best for my team. I live and breathe with my team. for easily 50, 60 hours a week. So I know my team, and I also know the best way to take this strategic plan and align it with my department. So I know what's best for my team. All I want is for you to hear what I'm saying about my team and what's best for the team and how we can be the most effective by utilizing an engaged and committed team. Isn't that what we all want? So that's what I mean by fighting in the moment. So, what are your patterns? So, that's a reactive leader. Now, here's what's happening. Here's what's really interesting. So, in the brain, we have the limbic system and the amygdala, right? We've got these two areas of the brain that process emotion. But we also have the prefrontal cortex of our brain. This is the executive decision maker. The prefrontal cortex of the mind, the brain, looks forward. The prefrontal cortex of the brain is the executive decision maker. So, as leaders, we depend on that part of our brain. But when we are in reactive mode, when there is heightened stress, when there is an emotional activation in our bodies, and there is discomfort, and even more than that, the brain then triggers this alert system. Oh shoot, I'm in danger and I need to do damage control. Oh my gosh, the emotions flood the system through neurochemicals called cortisol and other stress hormones, and it hijacks our reasoning. This is why this amazing brain fact that we've heard a million times, when emotion is high, logic is low. That's because the amygdala has taken over the prefrontal cortex of the leader's mind. So the leader can't think. The leader is heightened in a heightened state of emotional alert. And the brain thinks, "Oh gosh, we need to defend, we need to survive, and now I got to either fight, I got to flee, I got to freeze, or I have to fawn." We call this amygdala hijacking. Emotional hijacking of the leader's brain. This is what's happening in a nutshell. You want more neuroscience? Go talk to a neuroscientist. But as a brain coach and a neuroscience coach, I get to help my leaders better understand what is happening in their brain. And so I see Amy. Hi, Amy. Oh my goodness, so good to see you. Let me see what Amy has to say here. I got my glasses today, Amy. Remember last time, Amy? I'm like, I can't see anything. Amy says we can make it simple. We can be in primitive state, reactive. We most likely will make unwise choices. In empowered states of response is mature. Yes, in the empowered states of response. And that's what we want to talk about today, right, Amy? I mean, that's what we're doing here today, is talking about these big differences in what's happening in our reactive brain when the amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex of the mind, of the brain. I keep saying mind, brain, the neuroanatomy, the brain. And so it's important that we understand what's happening to us so that we can have better awareness around what activates us, what triggers us, because this will not be the last time. This won't be the last time you're triggered. This won't be the last time you're activated in a meeting, in a board meeting. Amy says a lizard took over the brain. Yeah. And for some of us, Amy, it's like a T-Rex like wants to destroy you. It takes over my brain. Reacting creates fear in the team. Good point, Amy. The impact on the team, right, Amy? I mean, Amy and I have been trained in some very sophisticated, elevated techniques. And Amy and I know that there are mirror neurons that we share in a team. This is why there's this group think sometimes, right? That's when a leader behaves perhaps in a negative way or yielding negative results, the team gets to see this and gets to experience it for themselves. It's called mirror neurons. We're mirroring each other's neurons. It's almost like it's contagious. There's a contagion happening. So thank you for bringing that up, Amy. Thank you, because I'll make sure we touch on that again. here very soon. So that's what's happening in the brain. The cortisol levels start spiking when we are activated. The stress levels increase in our bodies. And what is happening? All of our brain's resources are now focused on the immediate short term result right here, right now. Whoever is yelling at me, screaming at me, arguing with me in the boardroom, the brain's resources all go to this one spot. While the prefrontal cortex gets hijacked because the prefrontal cortex is so interested in the peripheral vision and the strategic thinking and forward focus thinking that a leader is hired to use. But when we are reacting in reactive leadership, you're just focused on whoever is in front of you and what you have to resolve right there in that moment. So you then eliminate all of your other faculties because you are so activated in this one moment. This is what reactive leadership looks like. Now, you tell me, have we seen that in our organizations? Have we seen that in our communities? Have we seen that in our families? I mean, some of us have lost contact with our families because of our political division. We can't have these conversations because there's amygdala hijacking at these special holidays. And we'd rather not do the holiday together because we just don't want to feel like crap anymore. And we don't want to keep going into these fight, freeze, fawn moments. So that's what's happening in the brain. But it's important that we leaders know what's happening, don't you think? Don't you think? So that we can better leverage our brain? Because we were hired to solve problems and create results with our teams. So, what part of the brain do we use in order to do our jobs? The entire part of our brain. And that prefrontal cortex, the executive decision maker, that's the part. That's where I put my money. I put my money on my prefrontal cortex. And so it's important that we understand the neuroscience behind what's happening, reactive leadership versus proactive leadership, and then the balancing of the two. It's important that we know this so we can leverage this as we move into uncertain climates, challenging climates, difficult climates. I mean, there is another study that Harvard Business Review did where 80% of managers avoid having difficult conversations. 80% of us out here are avoiding having difficult conversations. Number one, the amygdala hijacking that will probably take place either in you or in your direct report, and you don't know how to navigate through that. You probably don't have the skills either to be able to communicate difficult information, and you certainly don't have strategy to do that. So again, it's important that we understand this so that we can leverage what's happening in our brains. Wow, right? I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I got a lot. I got a little more to cover. A little more to cover. So when we look at proactive leadership, so we talked about the reactive leader with the amygdala hijacking, the cortisol levels and the stress levels that increase, the short-term focus that a reactive leader has versus now the proactive leader. Now, this leader is focused on anticipation and prevention of problems. Their mindset is completely different. They are anticipating and preventing. They anticipate the challenges and because they want to empower their team to handle these issues as they come up way before they escalate. So a proactive leader is proacting. They are anticipating problems so that we can prevent damage or further escalation of a situation. That's what a proactive leader does. And the proactive leader uses their prefrontal cortex in preparation for these challenges, these circumstances. So that's what's important to know about proactive leaders and what they're using, how they're using their prefrontal cortex to navigate through these challenging situations. Now, there's so much more to what a proactive leader, how the proactive leader can prepare for these circumstances. There's so much we can do. But for the sake of our time together, I just want to point out a few things. So, When emotion is high, logic decreases. So when emotion increases, the logic or reasoning decreases, right? Because we talked about the amygdala hijacking, and that's when our prefrontal cortex rational thinking starts to decrease. And so that's it's not the opposite, but the proactive leader says, okay, since I know that that's what's going to happen in my brain, since I know my patterns, since I know I am very reactive in the moment. And trust me, I am one of those people. Just talk to any of my clients. I am ready to fight. I'm ready to collaborate. I'm ready to move. I'm always in action. I'm always mobilizing the troops. I'm always moving forward, solving for problems. So when a proactive leader knows their patterns, right, and they understand that when my emotion increases, my reasoning is going to decrease. That's what's going to happen in the brain. So now, how do I find ways to balance this? What strategies do I need? What's the mindset that's important to have as I go into some difficult seasons in my business or in my organization? What are the skills that I need to hone in on, especially in these troubling circumstances or upcoming situations in my business or in my organization? The proactive leader is looking ahead. Yes, they consider short-term impact, but mostly they're using their peripheral vision and looking forward into the future. This is why our leaders design strategic plans for our organizations. They are forward thinkers. They're looking ahead, but they're considering the trends in the past. They're looking at patterns in the past, but they're also anticipating. They're also wanting to prevent. They're going to mitigate, but they're looking forward. So if you want to switch, kind of switched in, from being a reactive leader into a proactive leader, well, these are some things you want to consider. Number one, let's look at some of our past circumstances, some of our past situations where we didn't behave our best. I mean, I don't know about you, but there are many times where I've regretted things that I've said during a heated, emotionally triggering, activating event in the organization. I have regretted some things that I have said in the past. Not to mention the emotional hangover that you have for days. Because then you start thinking, wow, I did that. And now everyone witnessed it. And now people are going to think I'm this or that, or they're going to think I can't work with anybody because I'm yelling and screaming during these meetings. So I mean, how many of you have experienced that when there are moments of regret and the emotional hangover that happens when we are reactive in our leadership? And so the proactive leader says, "Well, hold on. Okay, I've done that. I've been there. I can take that information from those past circumstances. I can use them to leverage any future circumstances or conversations. I'm able to take that information as data. I'm not going to tie any shame, any regret, any disappointment. I'm forget it. I cannot do that. What I'm going to do is use that information as data points. And then I'm going to be able to now leverage that so that I can anticipate and prevent these conversations from happening again." That's the proactive leader. They're using their prefrontal cortex. Well, thank goodness. That's what I hired you to do, leader. Thank goodness you're using that part of your brain, and of course other parts of the brain, but that's the most important part of the brain that is focused on future forward thinking. And so that's the proactive leader. But now here's a good question. What if a leader says, "Okay, I'm mostly balanced. There are moments where I am reactive, and rightfully so. I'm triggered. I act the way I act. No shame in that game. And I'm also proactive in moments. What if there's a balance of the two?" Okay, well, here's what's important. In neuroscience, we call this cognitive flexibility. So we want to be flexible. This is why we need to do our self evaluation. This is why I asked you to look in your past to identify some of these moments so that you can understand your own patterns. So we can use that information as data so that we can use this through cognitive flexibility. We're building the resiliency in our brain by doing these self evaluations we're doing today. And cognitive flexibility just looks like, okay, I know who I am. I know how I react. I know my patterns. And although I cannot control everything because there's so much uncertainty in our industry, so much uncertainty impacting my organization, I'm going to do the best I can with my team to anticipate and prevent some problems. Now, if problems happen that have blindsided us and we don't know, where they came from, I'm going to know my patterns and I'm going to be able to have the mindset and the skills and the strategy to best serve the team in this new circumstance. So yeah, that's cognitive flexibility. It's being flexible in the brain. Cognitive flexibility, being flexible in your thinking, being flexible in your mindset. It's knowing who you are. Self-awareness, one of the most important skills that you need as a leader, especially as a proactive leader. So Amy says, leadership is the most profitable skill set at this time in our evolution. Oh, that's good, Amy. It's it's a time to learn nonviolent communication skills as well. The world is shifting fast and we need grounded leaders. Ooh, Amy. You know what really shocked me about that report from the Society for Human Resource Management was that 66% of employees have experienced or witnessed incivility in their workplace within the past month. That was a 30-day period. 66% said, oh, yeah, I have witnessed this in the workplace. They said there was an increase in disrespecting each other. There was an increase in interrupting or silencing others while they speak. And then, of course, excessive monitoring or micromanaging is what they reported. So these are the ways that we are showing incivility in our organizations. That's an increase from years past. The incivility of peer-to-peer, leader to follower interactions, maybe even, employee to customer, employee to client, these interactions that we're having with other humans through the workplace setting. That's shocking. But when Amy says it is the most profitable skill set at this time in our evolution, it's because there's so many changes that are happening, right, Amy? There's so much happening that we don't have control over. Long are the days where we leaders thought we could control everything. First of all, that was never facts. That was never the case. But many of us old school leaders out here thought, well, we just control the employee and we'll control the results. Well, that never worked. That never worked because we have to consider the external impact that's happening to our employee and their families and their lives. All of those external circumstances are impacting them. And they come into the workplace and you think that they're going to have a different mind and a different heart and a different brain coming into the organization. No, it's the same brain and heart that you take everywhere you go. And trust me, leader, check on yourself first. The things that are impacting you in your personal life, I 100% guarantee you it is impacting you unconsciously, because you're going to tell me, no, that's not true. Unconsciously, it is seeping into your behaviors in the workplace. So if you're on social media and you're canceling everybody because they don't agree with what you have to say or what you believe in, trust me, you're going to come into the workplace and do some canceling there too. You're going to cancel your peer. You're going to cancel your leader. You're going to cancel your clients. Trust me, you take your brain and your heart everywhere you go. So there will be some seepage in the workplace, which is why it was shocking and yet not shocking for me when I read the survey from Society for Human Resource Management. It's like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, of course. Yeah, there's an increase. Oh, yeah, they've never seen this kind of incivility in the work. Well, of course, they're taking their brain and their heart everywhere they go, from their personal lives to their community lives into the workplace. Amy says, own it and let it go. I like that. She also says, we can observe ourselves doing the thing without judgment and ask, what is it that I'm really afraid of? And is this really true? Beautiful. Amy, that's right. Without the judgment, right? But we have to have self-honesty first. And then we have to say, okay, I'm going to practice some self-honesty. And then I'm going to do this without the judgment. Yeah. I'm going to do this without the judgment. And then I'm going to ask myself, well, what am I really afraid of here? What's really true in this moment? And Amy also says all areas of life are connected and entangled. Ain't that the truth? So that was the mindset part. I hope we're all on the same page now where we're talking about reactive leadership versus proactive leadership and then a balance of the two, which is cognitive flexibility that's important. This is what's happening in the brain. So this is the neuroanatomy. This is what's happening. Neurochemicals that flood the body, cortisol and stress levels, even adrenaline is involved. There's so much happening in the body in that moment. But what I want for you to take away from this is the difference between these two leadership approaches. What is best for you? What's best for you? Remember, around here, we don't tell you this is how you must do it. No, I'm giving you information so that you can make an informed decision on should I keep being a reactive leader or should maybe do some proactive work here? Because I want to be a more effective leader. I want to use all my faculties. I don't want to be short sighted in my leadership practice. I want to have as much impact as I possibly can. I want to amplify my impact as much as I can. So maybe, perhaps, I should look into doing some proactive leadership work. Because if my employees and my direct reports are watching me, and because I am supposed to be the model of excellence in this organization, and because there's a thing called mirror neurons that's happening every single day, maybe I should consider looking at ways to be more proactive and then like being cognitive flexible in uncertain moments. Maybe just a suggestion. So that's the mindset part. We talked about the mindset. Remember, there are three really important variables that impact the correlation. They correlate to your leadership impact. That's better said. Three variables: mindset, skills, and then of course strategy. So we talked about the mindset. Now let's talk about skills. I think it's important that we talk about a leader's skills, especially when they are in a reactionary mode versus a proactive mode. Right? So I mean, I don't know about you, but have you noticed any leaders in their reactive mode? Remember, they're stressed out, amygdala has hijacked them. They are unhinged. Tell me, what do you see in their communication skills? Are they communicating clearly? Hmm? Are they thinking clearly? Are they delegating effectively? In the moment, are they their best? No. Reactive leaders lack these leadership skills. Listen, probably in the moment because of what's happening in the brain. But these leaders lack the skills to communicate, to delegate effectively, to plan strategically. Remember what's happening in the brain. They are short sighted. There's no peripheral vision, long term strategy thinking. No, they're in the moment. So they're short sighted. So, of course, their skills can't be utilized in those moments. But the proactive leader, however, the proactive leader says, okay, I've got some gaps. And again, because I know my patterns and because I know my activations, I know when I'm triggered. Okay, so I also want to make sure I've got my skills on lock because I want to depend on my skills when my brain wants to shut down and when my brain wants to go into hijack mode. When I'm not able to use my prefrontal cortex, okay, maybe I can count on some of these skills that I've been developing. So the proactive leader says, okay, I've got gaps. And maybe I should hone in on certain skills here. Maybe I'm not great at debate. Maybe I'm not great at expressing or articulating, the value of my team. Maybe I need to work on communication skills. Okay. Or maybe I don't know how to delegate when I'm stressed out and when I'm activated in the moment. I don't want to put a lot of work on my team. So I got a problem delegating. Okay, that's a gap. Let's look at the gap of delegation skills. How about strategic planning? There's so many leaders I know, and that may be besides self-awareness, that could be the second least developed skill, strategic planning. And strategic planning is necessary at all levels of leadership. And so maybe because you are short-sighted in the moment when you are activated, there's no strategic foresight. There's no there's no forward thinking. Well, maybe that's something you want to consider developing. And we want to master these skills. It's important that we master these skills so that when our brain wants to go offline or wants to go, run away or wants to freeze or wants to fight, we can bring up those skills, and we have to master those skills so they become unconscious. Mastery is the ability to execute effortlessly without the use of conscious resources. But don't you want to master some skills then? If you know your triggers and you know your patterns, mastery is the ability to execute effortlessly without the use of conscious resources. So start looking at the gaps in your leadership skills, and let's look at you developing them to the point of mastery. So when I was, oh gosh, when I was a young leader, because I'm not young anymore, y'all. I know. Those days are long gone. But listen, when I was 19 years old, I was a Bath and Body Works retail manager. I know somebody said, "Here, give her the keys. She's going to run this multi-million dollar a year, a month store." Yeah, we had a big budget, and we had some big quotas and sales expectations at Bath and Body Works. Love that store still today. Love it. Still go and shop in there today. But back when I was 19 years old, there was no professional development anything. They threw me in. They said, "Okay, there you go. They're in the arena now. Good luck. Try to figure things out." They saw I had strong work ethic. They saw that I loved the products. They saw that I could sell like nobody's business. They said, "Okay, she should be in management." And I said, "Yeah, okay, whatever y'all think." So they throw you in there, and I'm hoping it's different now, obviously decades later. But at that moment, I didn't know what leadership skills were. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. And being a young leader at that time taught me so much. I was definitely a reactive leader. I had no business in leadership. Really, I didn't at that time. I don't think anybody really does at that time at 19 years old. But there I was struggling because I didn't have the leadership skills. I was a reactive leader. I mean, I was unhinged with my employees. I was not the best, most effective. I was really a horrific leader. It wasn't the best time for me as a leader, but listen, I learned so much because talk is cheap and experience is everything. And I learned so much from that experience. And I learned that I had lots of gaps. And I learned that I was reactionary in all of my decisions. I had no strategic planning. I had no communication skills. I didn't even know how to delegate. I just commanded the room. I made sure everybody followed the war plan. That was my style of leadership at that time because I didn't know any better. I was mimicking my leader. I was just a carbon copy of her. I had no way to do any inventory, any self-awareness, any self-assessment on my leadership abilities back then. Didn't have that. But now we get to do that. Now we know too much. We've come this far. We've known too much to go back. And so now it's important that we practice the self-honesty, like Amy said, without the judgment, um, and then go and invest in developing these leadership skills. Hold on, Amy. I'm seeing you right here. I was an emotional toddler in leadership. Yeah. Listen, I was there. And there's moments where I still am, by the way. As a CEO and founder, trust me, there are moments where I have to just take a moment because I know my patterns and I have to go, okay, I'm going to talk to you in about an hour. Will you give me an hour? I just need a moment to research some things. And then why don't we get back on a call and then let's talk about solving this problem together. And then I get off that Teams call and I'm unhinged all by myself here when nobody watching, no employee witnessing or observing my outbursts. But I get to do that. And yes, if I have to go into toddler mode, again, no judgment here, y'all, but that's what I have to do as a CEO and founder today. Today, after being in the field of leadership for over 26 years, I, I'm still working through some things. Amy says, "I need a moment." Yes. Yes, we all need the moments. We all need a moment. And so back to those skills and mastering these skills, it's important that we do that as leaders so that we can better navigate these difficult situations. So that we can prevent or anticipate and prevent these situations and then use our cognitive flexibility. So these are the skills that we must master. so we can be proactive leaders who practice cognitive flexibility. Now, the last variable, remember we talked about mindset, we talked about skills, and now we're going to go through strategy really quickly, and then we're gonna end our time together because I know I went way off. Um, oh yeah, this was scheduled for 20 minutes. Yeah, right, y'all. I can't. No, 20 minutes, whatever. That's like 3 minutes to me. So let's talk about strategic influence strategy. So the reactive leader. So what is again the reactive leader is just short-term thinker. Again, they're not interested in the moment because of the amygdala hijacking. They're not interested in peripheral vision, forward thinking. Not at all. They can't even tap into those faculties. They're not able to see long term. They are in immediate threat mode. They are in damage control. And all they're focused on is resolving whatever is in front of them. And so we're hired to use the prefrontal cortex of our brain so that we can strategically plan. So that if we're department leaders, we take the organization's strategic plan and we align them in our departments. That's one of your primary roles as a leader. And you're not doing that because you are a reactive leader. That's dangerous. You're in dangerous territory. It's one of the primary reasons we hired you as a leader is to use your strategic influence. You're using your strategic planning and influence on your team. So the reactive leader is unable to do that in that moment. I mean, you may be an amazing strategic planner outside of those moments, but it's in those moments, those challenging crisis moments that we need you online. We need your brain online and we need all your faculties online. And if you're not able to do that, well, then let's get some training so that we can get you to be a more effective leader in those moments. Now, the proactive leader, well, guess what? They're planning ahead. They know their patterns. They know what triggers them. They know how they respond to circumstances. And what do? They're like, okay, listen, here's that strategic plan of the organization, and here's my department. And here's how I'm going to align that strategic organizational goal and how I'm going to align it with us, with our department. This is what we are responsible for. So when my brain goes offline, remember, this is the proactive leader saying, because when my brain goes offline, I may have a moment where I pass out for a moment in the middle of an argument. When I come to, I'm going to remember that one of my primary roles as a leader is to make sure my team and I move towards fulfilling those strategic plans of this organization. So the proactive leader says, oh, yeah, okay, I know my triggers, I know what's up, I know my patterns, but I'm also prepared because ultimately we are here to align those big goals and funnel them into our department. So we're going to align with those and we're going to perform at our best. And that way your brain goes back online. Listen, you're human. We have a human brain. We're not AI yet. We are humans with human anatomy. Now, our brains, you open up our brain and the anatomy is there. Some of us, some parts work for others better than other people and other things that are happening, but the anatomy is there. And so what we get to do as proactive leaders is go, okay, this is what's happening in the brain. Now I understand why I react the way I do. Now I understand why others react the way they do. Okay, so it's happening to them. So listen, we're all human, no shame, no shade, because we're all going to experience this. If you haven't yet, you're brand new to leadership. Or you may not even be in leadership yet, because trust me, if you've been in leadership for a day, you have experienced reactionary leadership. Or you're AI and you don't feel a thing. But it's important that we remember these things when we are activated. That's why it's important to understand who you are. Self-awareness, super important here. So those were the three variables that we look at every topic every single week through, right? We take those three variables and we pick a topic and we filter them through those three variables. That's what we do in the Institute, by the way. So mindset variable, skills, the skill set that we need as leaders, and of course, strategy. So three variables that correlate to the impact that we have as leaders. And so this is how we look at reactionary leadership versus proactive leadership. And then the use of cognitive flexibility when we are in these middle grounds, when there is uncertainty, when we have anticipated and prepared as much as we could, but there are circumstances that we did not foresee happening. We are able to fluctuate between the two so we can respond in the moment, but in the best way and leveraging our brain in the most effective way. So that's why it's important that we come to these conversations every single week through the lens of those three variables. Amy says, "My Bronze Age brain gets activated. Sharing this, I need to take a moment, gives others permission to take a moment too, and I am respected for it." Yes, again, the impact, and Amy's bringing back the impact that we have on our team. So when we are able to do that for ourselves, and our team gets to witness that, then you gain more respect. And isn't that the whole point of creating these bonds with our teammates, with our direct reports? I mean, we want to create and cultivate mm, committed, fully engaged team members. We spend so much time with them. I mean, our careers for some of us are really, really important. And we spend, almost a third of our lives in the organization, in a professional setting. And so, as Amy said, you take a moment, give yourself permission, but also, allowing others to do the same so that we can be better leaders because that's what we deserve and that's what our teams deserve. And so I hope you all found that helpful. So again, we looked at reactive versus proactive leadership, cognitive flexibility, super important. We talked about mindset skills and strategy as a proactive leader. Here's what I would love us to what I want to introduce you to. Amy says, I'm human too, and moving out of centuries of survival mode. So I show compassion for myself. Wow, Amy, there's so much unraveling, right? There's some things we want to take with us and then things we want to leave behind. So there's a lot of unraveling. And for me, survival mode, and we need survival mode. Listen, if I'm being chased by a tiger or a bear, trust me, I want all my faculties focus on my brain resources, focus on my legs and my extremities, and getting me to run the heck out of there, right? Survival mode in circumstances like that is important. But we're not living in those times in the workplace. We have been programmed to be in survival mode, which is why we're so reactionary now. Interesting, right, Amy? Wow. Okay. So here's what I want to share with you. Again, for those of you who are joining or watching the replay, now remember, we stream this everywhere. We stream this on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Yeah, I've got 2 Facebook accounts, but we're everywhere. And then you can also watch the replays on my website at drdenisesimpson.com. But inside the Amplify Leadership Program, this is where we look at all 3 variables: mindset, skills, and the strategies. And really the goal of Amplify Leadership, and it's brand new. We only have about 4 people in there right now, as of right now, today, at the time of this live stream. So we're a small group, but Amplify Leadership is something I wanted to do so I can help you simplify leadership, because leadership can be complex, it can be nebulous. As I've always said many times, it is abstract. Somebody's definition of leadership can be very different than the other person's definition of leadership. Somebody's leadership skills can be honed and, at mastery level versus someone who's brand new, who doesn't even know where to begin. And so leadership can be complicated. And of course, there are systems in place to keep some people out of the leadership pipeline. Facts, no BS there. And so what we want to do inside Amplify Leadership is, if you are in leadership and you value leadership development and training, you value your growth and expansion, then this is the program for you. Amplify Leadership. It's a monthly membership. You cancel anytime. Listen, we don't question you. If you want to leave, you just do it. You just click on bye, gotta go. That's it. I mean, we're only here for the season that you need us in. This is not to be a crutch. You're not supposed to be dependent on us. This is to help you in the season you're in as a leader right now. It's monthly professional development and coaching. And we have a certification in there as well. So there's a signature course in there. If you complete it, you are certified. and you get an online digital badge and certificate to show your employer, to put on your resume or your CV, or even on LinkedIn to post your credentials. And so we have designed micro credential courses as well. So if you are looking for just a short, 10-hour, 5-hour credential in a very specific topic, like we're going to have a team building micro class here very soon. You're going to get credentialed for that so you can show your employer that you are doing professional development. Some of your employers will pay for professional development. Others don't really care about your development or growth, unfortunately. So that's why we wanted to make Amplify leadership economical for all leaders at all levels of the pipeline of leadership. So you're going to want to go to, let's see here. Don't hide that one. Let's open this one up. Okay, there we go. No ticker. Listen, y'all, I'm getting to know StreamYard really well. Okay, so the website is my website, drdenisesimpson.com. You're going to go to drdenisesimpson.com/amplify. Amplify, because when you simplify leadership, you get to amplify your impact. That's why we did what we're doing. This is why we created Amplify, because it's too complicated out here. And we want to simplify leadership for you so that you can go do your best, go amplify your convictions, go amplify your values, go amplify your impact, because you deserve it and so does your team. And so you're going to want to join us at drdenisesimpson.com/amplify. All right. Wow, y'all. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Oh, Amy and all those who are watching all over the platforms here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Expect another training like this next week. I think we're gonna touch on incivility next week. Again, I think we're gonna go into the full survey and talk more about that. A lot of my clients are experiencing this right now, reactionary leadership in uncivil environments in the workplace. And so I think it's worth talking about, or considering to talk about that again next week. So we'll see. But you're going to want to follow me here and make sure you join me live. So thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. Always love seeing you, my friend. Oh my goodness, and all of our friends watching across the way here. We will see you next week. You all take good care of yourselves. Bye.